Hey, how's it going, guys? Nate here, and today I would like to talk about why exactly Farming Simulator 2017 is receiving PlayStation 4 mod support, and why the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Remaster isn't. And if you're hearing this for the first time, you're probably thinking, wait, well, that doesn't make sense. In which case, you're right to think that. Bethesda has significantly more resources, financially, legally, and so on, than the publishers of Farming Simulator, Focus Interactive. And I'm actually willing to bet you probably didn't even know the name of Farming Simulator's developer that well until the story unfolded. You want to know why? Because they don't have as many resources as Bethesda. So why exactly is it that their game is able to receive PlayStation 4 mod compatibility, but Bethesda's is not? And what exactly does that mean for everybody else? So anyway, without further ado, let's do further. So starting off, what's the reason for Farming Simulator getting mods first? Well, we can consider what Bethesda requires for their modding community. Compared to Farming Simulator, there's an obvious disparity. Bethesda has actively made it the norm to afford modders access to nearly free range with many of the very tools they themselves have used to construct the game. Combine that with the fact that Skyrim itself is a very complex title with a lot of content, and I think it's safe to say that the reason why Bethesda titles enjoy such vibrant and active modding scenes half a decade after the respective games come out is because there's a lot to mod and a lot of ways to mod it, messing around with sound, visual, and other game files. Whereas when we look at Farming Simulator, the modding scene isn't as inherently complex. From what I've seen browsing the community is a lot of mods that edit the skin of different pieces of equipment, some change numerical values, neither of which require you to mess around too much with the game files anyway. There does appear to be some sort of limited script access, but then again, nothing too demanding, no visual overhauls or voiced NPC quest mods, or anything of that sort. So when the developers of Farming Simulator appeal to Sony to allow their mod support process to be verified, Sony is able to see exactly what the modders will be given access to, which really doesn't appear to be much anyway, and say, oh, okay, this is acceptable. Whereas when Bethesda comes to Sony and tells them that they need their modders to be able to upload heavily modified .esms, the file suffix Bethesda uses for mods and DLC, and sound files, and be able to mess around with .ps4 files, Sony looks at this and says, no, half of what you're doing is literally incompatible with our system, which is actually the reason why when mods were supposed to come out on the PS4, modded sound files wouldn't have been able to work anyway, and the other half possesses a huge possible security issue. Now, it should be noted that what I'm about to say has not been confirmed by Bethesda nor Sony, but due to that fundamental lack of communication, I think drawing the possible correlation here that I'm about to does make some sense. Now, Sony has always had a history of security issues. On the PlayStation 2, for instance, you could literally get around Sony's quote-unquote protection and run a game from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, remember when those ancient civilizations existed, burn that game onto a disc and be able to play with the copy you just made, which costed both Sony and their developers a lot of money and potential sales revenue. On the PlayStation 3, there was a number of HDMI CP issues thanks again to Sony's protection. Or if you wanted to record gameplay with a capture card, you needed to do and go through a very difficult workaround that required enough wires to constitute a fire hazard. Again, on the PlayStation 3, overriding Sony's protection and jailbreaking the system was incredibly easy, and once done, people could be given access to literally download games for free and often early before their release dates, as well as host Call of Duty challenge lobbies. So for Sony to deny Bethesda's modding process in the interest of security may not be that unfounded. They have a reason to be afraid. Allowing users to upload and modify files as complex as .esms they fear may open up potential avenues for future security threats. So while Sony may be tolerant and trusting of these massive game publishers with millions and millions of dollars at stake, that trust probably doesn't extend to your average Joe. And looking back at the history, that's probably one of the bigger reasons the PlayStation 3 has always had such a significantly smaller indie game scene than the Xbox 360. Sony didn't really trust enough indie publishers, possibly. Microsoft evidently doesn't share Sony's fears, and that's likely because Microsoft's operating system is built in a way where they're not as threatened by these really heavily modified files. So while Sony can look at and recognize the simplicity of the files that Farming Simulator wants to mess around with and be alright with it, they are a bit more conservative about allowing manipulated, complex .esms. Anyway guys, I hope I offered some sort of satisfactory explanation here. Again, Bethesda and Sony haven't exactly been proactive in communicating their reasoning, so I could still be off by a bit. But I still hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to hit that like button, dislike if you did not, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone. And my name is Nate, and I hope this video was great, and don't forget to rate— oh, shut up, you goop, just cut to the outro.